Notice how the right page is a little bit lighter. That draws your attention to the rendered maquette.
If I had one objection is to change your
He's breaking up that pace, but in a different way. Here, he was always dividing between facing pages.
Erase this and put one of his sketches in the background. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Portfolio Review. This is our second season. I'm Steven from Show It Better, and my co-host and fellow architect Oliver from upstairs is joining me today.
Hey Steven, I'm really excited to be doing another round of Portfolio Review, and this season is proudly sponsored by Issuu, the all-in-one platform for publishing and sharing your work.
That's right, and this is so cool because even before having the sponsor, we already recommended using Issuu to publish and share your architecture portfolio online. It's pretty much an industry standard at this point. You'll get a single link to easily share your work across the web, and you even have that page flip effect that adds a whole new level to your viewing experience.
There's a link in the video description for you to get started on Issuu and publish your work there. We'll talk more about how to use Issuu during the video. Now, if you're interested in submitting your portfolio for a future episode of Portfolio Review, there's a form submission in the video description as well. And we only accept portfolios through Issuu links, which is a lot easier to review and share with you guys.
And if you missed any of our past episodes, don't worry, there is a playlist in the comment section below so you can catch up on all of our portfolio reviews. So without further ado, let's get started. So let's start looking at our first portfolio, which is by David Young. We asked each of you to tell us who was this directed to, and David said that this was an application for a job at an architecture practice. Take into account when you start creating your portfolio. Who is your portfolio directed to?
It makes total sense, Steven, because the portfolio changes depending on the audience. If you're applying for a master's, it may have different requirements, so you should take that into account. And if it's for a professional position, a job position, maybe a firm has different styles, different software requirements, and I think you need to curate your portfolio towards that specific requirements. So yeah, I'm excited to take a look at David's portfolio.
And let's start with the cover, which lately I've had this soft spot for hand sketched or maybe digital sketched as well. I think we saw so many portfolios with renders, with digitally made things that when someone creates this, it like takes you back and says like, all right, someone took the time to think about the cover or create a drawing specifically for the cover, which adds a little bit of value.
Yeah, I agree with you, and it makes it very personal. It stands out from all of the hundreds and hundreds of applicants that a firm or a master's may receive. And just like us here, we review a ton of portfolios, every portfolio review that we do, and we receive all of the links through a Excel sheet, and you look at a bunch of covers, and a handmade sketch tells you a lot, and it makes you eager to know what's inside of it.
Yeah, and one important thing is to demonstrate the hand of the designer. So when you may be going to some generic diagrams or some generic drawings, it's very hard to see the hand of the designer, like what your personal characteristics, taste, your colors are when you have these drawings. But when you have a sketch, I mean, no two sketches are like, and this obviously talks a lot about David. Let's continue to see what we have inside.
All right, the CV, the resume, the CV, right?
So we have the resume, which it's very typical of today to see his introduction, his picture, and a very short CV that has work experience, education, software, and competition. It's to the point, and it doesn't have to be all over the page, all over the place. There's a lot of white space, a lot of void space to breathe. That's something that we always repeat in all the episodes, but I think that's super important.
A well-structured CV has to have very defined titles and content so that you know what to look and where to find the information you're looking for. So it's usually by using bold fonts on the title. You can even go all caps. You might play with different fonts, but this is kind of a hard thing to pull it off. There's not much more to do here. You gotta be simple. You gotta deliver the essential information without too much fuss. And notice that there's a QR code here. They extend your portfolio reach. Doing a portfolio with Issuu is really great because you have that single link to deliver across multiple platforms. But then what about a personal website? What about a video? What about different formats? What about like extra stuff that you want to deliver as well? A QR code is your best solution for that.
So let's continue to
table of contents.
God.
Yeah.
Table of content. From the start, we haven't seen any project, but we are kind of like seeing all of them, and we're seeing the hand of the designer and how he is looking into his own architecture, even if they are, you know, academic projects or professional projects. It doesn't really matter because he just groups them all into this diagram.
A very interesting contrast between like the first two, the cover, the CV here, and then you dive into a full bleed spread that has a lot of play with lighting here. Notice how the right page is a little bit lighter. That draws your attention to the rendered maquette here, the digital physical model. But also then he's playing with the colors of the type so that the titles are white and they draw more attention against the darker background. But then there's extra description information with a darker text that's there, and it doesn't compete with the relevancy, what you should look first. The numbers are slightly bigger as well, so that you know there's a sequence of it. I mean, this is a total win for me, man. Total win.
I mean, and we haven't even gone into the first project, and we're already like sold with David. I think what you were talking about is really spot on, because it talks about visual pace. Like what's the visual pace of the portfolio? So when you have like a completely blank page and then you contrast it with full bleed render, it makes people like want to stop and take some more time in this page. Maybe I think the next one plays a balance with, you know, full bleed images versus white space. So yeah, I mean, completely agree. David, very good job.
All right, so the first project is the Urban Plaza. We should expect maybe, as by seeing here, a longer building with a centered void. Yep. The table of contents are usually my favorite part of portfolio because I have a broader look of what's to come. But then the project opening is really what gets me. If the project opening is bad, I usually skip it. I usually try to find and go to the next portfolio. But here you can clearly see a title, you can see more of a site plan, and then a sneak peek of the project. It doesn't show you everything, but also gives you a lot of what's the project's identity.
And I think that's why it's so crucial, the order of the projects that you decide, right? I mean, when you decide to put maybe your best project or your most complete project, or the project that maybe you want to be identified with, you would put that at the beginning. And inside of that project, you want to also think a lot about the organization of your images, which one you want to be seen first versus the last one. So I think this was a really perfect choice of the site plan versus the rendering versus a small text that complements these 4 columns.
Yeah, and the attention of detail here. There's a bigger title for the project title, and then there's a short description about the theme, the team.
Not too long.
Then and then a short description of the project. They have the same height. I bet like it's just cropped so that they both match. I bet this wasn't like this when he initially designed the drawings. Amazing.
The most simple kind of designs are the hardest to make it look this clean. To decide what not to put maybe is much more important than just filling it all out.
And to pull something like this off, you gotta have strong drawings. If you add bad drawings to this sort of layout, I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. It's gonna look weird. So yeah.
Completely agree.
Then we go to the next pages, and here again we have a contrast between digital physical model with very technical plans. I really enjoy seeing like this difference on a spread, you know, that you have this constant battle between technical and more visual stuff.
And like nowadays, when you have a 3D model, you can basically create tons and tons of images in a second. Trying to decide to maybe give a little bit more relevance to the floor plan also adds some value to it, just because you don't, necessarily want to be filling your portfolio with renders, but you want different techniques to be displayed there as well. And now that we saw that this project was only done by him, it also shows like the versatility of his design capabilities.
And it's about showing what you want to be doing. So if you only show renders, you might be that guy that does the renders for the firm you're applying to, and maybe you don't want that.
Not that it's bad, but
yeah,
I mean, when you show only one thing that you're good at, then the most probable outcome is that you're going to be doing that thing wherever you get accepted. We both have tutorials on how to create these digital maquettes. So in case you're wondering, I'll leave a link here for both videos with different kinds of software. You can create these very easily and they can look very good in your portfolio. And
he's breaking up that pace, but in a different way. Here, he was always dividing between facing pages and utilizing each page individually. And then all of a sudden he takes a section that goes side to side on the spread, even going through the middle seam, which is a great way to break up that pace and create a point of interest. And this is an interesting section. I'm not so sure about the clouds though. This is just personal thoughts, I guess.
I wouldn't use the clouds, but
Or
again,
the
I
bird.
think that that shows the hand of the designer.
And I think keeping the project opening consistent is a great way to tell the other person on the other end what to expect. A title like this, a little bit of description, an image on one side, you know that new project has come to your screen and you're now diving into a whole new set of information here.
And to end the actual portfolio with another sketch, then that's just the icing on the cake.
For those watching this video, remember that this is a inspiration, a portfolio that you can get inspired by, but applying everything that you see here with your drawings and images and your context might not work, because this makes sense for his set of constraints here, set of drawings and things. So take this as that pill of inspiration and try to absorb some of this awesomeness that David's portfolio has.
So let's take a look at Leon Buter's portfolio. He sent us this portfolio and he told us that he was applying for internships after finishing his bachelor's degree. We thought this was a really good portfolio. If we had one word to describe Leon's portfolio, it would be authentic. And if you had this portfolio in a sea of, 20 or 30 different portfolios that are maybe more to the minimal side, this one would stand out a lot because he chose a different design approach, a different graphic design approach to his portfolio. And I think it's very interesting. We remade some of his spreads with some corrections that we would make, but that doesn't mean that this portfolio is not good, is not interesting. Let's take a look at it and see what we have inside.
Again, we take a look at hundreds and hundreds of portfolios and we see some that are way out there, like with lots of design elements and extra graphic design elements that may not fit entirely in a portfolio situation. But here Leon did that in a very pleasing way. He nailed it in so many things, and this is a good inspiration to look at. So the cover, it already shows us what's to come. It has a bit of that extra design elements.
The yellow highlight color is something that we're going to be seeing throughout the whole portfolio, which, as you guys know, we always talk about color consistency, and everything communicates something. When you put a color into your portfolio or you put it repeatedly throughout your spreads, it communicates some intention.
We have the table of contents. There's no CV here. There's a small CV on the left.
Then we have table of contents that has a lot of elements that maybe, today we wouldn't make these, but if we grabbed like a magazine from like the 80s or 90s, this would be like, that's nothing bad at all. I think it's really cool, like a very OMA, MVRVD 90s kind of style.
There are patterns, dashed lines, dotted lines, colored type fonts, and
there's a lot of stuff to be looking at.
But it plays well all of the elements that are displayed here. And then his project opening has the same style that as you've been seeing, but again, it has a lot of information, but on the other hand, it leaves enough white space so that the main image can have its place and its importance shown here. I think it works out nicely.
When I first saw this portfolio, it was hard to digest at first because I didn't understand what was going on. I was like, okay, so you're starting with a picture, or like the majority of his portfolio has pictures, but then you see throughout the different projects what Leon is specializing in or what his passion is in. This is just like the perfect example of how to do a portfolio that's very specific to you. So with David, we saw that he has a ton of skills that he could create, very specific floor plans from renders to whole design projects. But Leon, we start to see with his projects that he really is into very small scale kind of projects, where he goes from how to design a wall from rammed earth to maybe a cabin in Switzerland. So that's something that we're going to be seeing right now.
And his portfolio feels more like a documentation process of the whole thing. Pictures and like photos, they play a major part in this portfolio.
Super important.
And there's no different way to display photos unless like in a grid manner.
If you're a hands-on kind of architect, we're mostly like office architects that spend our whole day in the office or in front of a computer creating drawings. But since he is actually there creating the projects, creating the prototypes, that just makes it much more interesting because he has a technical knowledge in his experience that adds a lot more value.
99% of this portfolio is amazing, but I think the 1% that I would change is maybe portrayed here with our before and after redesign spreads. So do you want to take a look at them, Steven?
Yeah.
The first one is the project opening. I really liked his composition here with the collage, text, titles, numbers, and all this cardinal type of scheme here. One thing that kind of bothered me is the black line on the side. I think they're competing.
It's a lot.
It has a lot of identity, but then the collage has a lot of identity as well. So they are just battling for attention here on my take, at least. So what I did was just clean up a little bit and align things better. It's just like a simple, there might be a reason for him to be connecting both and leaning all of this diagram towards the bottom left here. But since like I cannot get into his head to understand it all, or maybe it's part of the composition, I just thought that this would look nicer. The second one I chose to redesign was this one. Something I noticed is that there's a very light gray background here, it was kind of distracting. I mean, I guess he was trying to reinforce some alignments here, but I don't think you necessarily need that. You visually understand that everything is aligned. You could even space out the houses a little bit more here to make up for that. But also I noticed that this was all over the place as well. I mean, obviously the drawings and diagrams here, they don't help you because they have different forms and different shapes, but I try to clean that up and make it more neat, if you will. So this is the before and this is the after. Like I brought that explanation here as a white text on the image because I felt that there was a space for that, and I tried to align both drawings with their explanations so that we just didn't ditch that information that he was trying to convey. I also kind of reshaped the text here, the paragraph, into a more vertical one. Minimal, but I thought it cleaned up and categorized.
I think that this is one of these spreads that you look at the original one and you're like, what else could you improve? When I see the results, I'm like, man, this is so spot on. Like the text beside each diagram, just tidying up, the construction details below and tidying up the text it just makes sense. So this was spot on.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Yeah, the whole projects I like a lot, but the table of contents I think was just too strong, which is this one right here. I think I made some corrections right here, and this was how the page was at the beginning, and I just erased something. So I left the black bar, but I took off another description that he had over here. I took off the images, I took off the double numbers that I think was a bit confusing, and there was also this overview, all this line over here. It's just a little bit too much for me, so I just took it off and centered it on the numbers and then the name of the projects. I think that was the most important thing.
And even after removing everything, it still looks like
a lot,
portfolio.
Right?
It still looks like Leon's portfolio, but you remove a lot of the unnecessary noise. I like it, man.
Now, before we continue looking at all of the other portfolios, we have a quick break to talk about our sponsor, Issuu. Sponsors like these help us maintain these videos and keep creating free content on YouTube. So thank you for all of your support.
Okay, so you have created your portfolio. It's looking fantastic. You even took some of our critiques here and modified some spreads. Now, how do you share your portfolio with someone? Yeah, you can send them the PDF file by email, messaging app and all, but this just doesn't look good, right? They will be viewing the pages by scrolling up and down. Not to mention that the files can get heavy and they would need to download it before actually viewing your work.
And this is where Issuu comes in, the all-in-one platform for publishing and sharing your work. With Issuu, you can easily upload your portfolio, documents, and presentations. You get one single link that's easy to share with the world.
Then if that wasn't enough, you have a plugin that goes directly to Adobe InDesign that makes exporting your documents and portfolios a breeze.
And not only Issuu is great for showing off your work, but it's also a master of disguise. With just a few clicks, you can turn your portfolio into a social media post ready to be shared with the world. You can also give it that famous book feel you like if you were actually turning the pages of a physical portfolio.
The platform is quite complete. Issuu provides robust analytics to track your work's performance and reach. The process to create an account and upload your work is quite easy, and I'm going to hand it off to Steven so that he can show you the steps.
Okay, so let's get down to the nitty-gritty of how to upload your portfolio to Issuu. So first, create an account on Issuu. You can sign up for a free account or choose a paid plan based on your needs. Upload your portfolio to Issuu. You can do this by clicking the upload button on the home page or by using the InDesign plugin if you have it installed. Open the document you want to upload and make sure you are also connected to your Issuu account on your browser. Now wait for the portfolio to upload and you can publish it directly or open your portfolio on Issuu. Once on your browser, you can adjust the settings of your portfolio, add links, and share the link to your portfolio. Customize your portfolio. Issuu offers a range of customization options, so you can make your portfolio look exactly the way you want it to. Choose a background, add branding elements, and even include links to your website or other online profiles. Share your portfolio. Once your portfolio is uploaded, you can share it with the world. Issuu makes it easy to share on social media, embed the portfolio on your website, or even send it directly to your clients and potential employers. Track your portfolio's performance. So with Issuu's analytics, you can see how your portfolio is performing, who's viewing it, and where they're coming from. This information can help you make informed decisions about your marketing and outreach efforts. That's it. With just a few simple steps, you can have a professional, eye-catching portfolio up and running on Issuu in no time. In conclusion, Issuu is the ultimate tool for architects and creative professionals who want to show off their work in the best possible light. With its ease of use, customization options, and powerful analytics, there's no reason to settle for a boring portfolio anymore. So why wait? Sign up for Issuu today and start sharing your work with the world. Okay, so let's continue with our third portfolio. This portfolio is by Mohammed Isaac, and let's check it out.
All right, so let's full screen it. Mohammed Isaac, a very minimal cover. It doesn't stand out, but it's not bad either. The portfolio contents is what is most relevant, of course, but personally, I'll take extra time with the cover just so that it feels a little bit more personal.
And I think one of the best things that Mohammed has going for him is his sections, his drawings, and it has really good drawings. So maybe I would consider inserting some of these sections into the cover. It could give it like a personal voice to his portfolio.
So we've got here a project opening with a title, brief description, like technical information, then a body text, and then a out of this world collage / rendering, which is fantastic. It has a moody feeling, you know, it feels like very dreamy, if you will.
I also like the selection of fonts.
It feels like those mono fonts, right? Where there's all of the fonts that have the monotype,
monotype form.
But then he contrasts that with serif font with the body text, right?
If I had one objection, I mean, this is not, we're not supposed to be critiquing images, but if I had one objection is to change your cutouts, because these cutouts, like that girl, the girl with it's just all over the place nowadays. You see it in many renders. So just take that extra time to search for someone that is not that common, because it just makes the actual render, which is really good, center mostly on the girl.
Maybe also that's our eyes, because we're so used to seeing these. You know, I mean,
we're
the average architect that doesn't really like too much of renderings, you know, they may not care, but like Steven's point of view is totally valid, because as soon as you look at the image, your eyes go straight to this guy or this girl that you're seeing so much, and then so it's familiar, and then it feels like an anchor on the image. Yeah, you're right, man. Here, the light background works. It makes the inner part of the plan detaches a little bit from the background, so that you create a subtle but present contrast. And I think if you look closely, you can see even a very subtle shadow.
This just tops it off, right? It just adds more detail to the actual project that, you know, sometimes we just see a floor plan in a section, but when you add a facade detail, you know, explain a little bit more of your skills when it comes to architecture and design.
And what's really cool is that he had some interesting images, some technical drawing, even more technical drawings, like straight to the detailing, and then he breaks up that pace, that rhythm, visual images, renderings that again have that dreamy mood that the first one had. So he has the consistency of maintaining the same style on the images, but then you close up this project with all of this interesting interior space.
This whole project has these little digital maquettes. I think they're digital. Do you think they're? I think they're actual maquettes though.
The borders here, they want to tell me that this is a physical one. They're like, this is real. You know, there's too many artifacts on this image, but then the light inside feels like a render.
I know. It has me super confused. Okay, so before you continue watching this video, comment down below. Is it digital or is it physical?
Well, then the portfolio continues, but each rendering, project opening each rendering on the project opening is just fantastic. Individual drawings. And notice how he's placing the the body text, the description text on the pages, they feel intentional, but also they don't necessarily need to be aligned directly to something to be to feel correct.
Overall, Mohammed, I think this was a really cool portfolio. You had like a very specific visual voice where you could have like a very specific style of renders and also of drawings. Maybe the curriculum, the CV, just looks a little bit off in comparison to the rest of the portfolio. So maybe we would recommend you to take a second look at that. But apart from it, it looks very cool. Congratulations, man. Thank you for sending in over your portfolio.
And remember that all of the portfolio links are going to be in the video description if you want to check them out with more time. All right, so let's go to the last portfolio. This one is from Arquitecto Daniel Alvarez.
I want us to look through this portfolio. I think it's really interesting. It has some spreads that we took into consideration and we kind of corrected it a little bit, but overall it has some interesting projects, interesting things to highlight. What do you think about the cover?
Well, I'm not gonna say that I disliked it entirely, but kind of did, man. If I'm speaking bluntly here.
So I did take the time and kind of remade the cover, so it just seemed a little off in comparison to the rest of the portfolio. If we look at specifically at what I didn't like was that, first of all, we have two very contrasting colors as backgrounds. So we have the gray and the white, which I don't see the necessity for both. Then we have like a frame within the actual frame. So we have 3 frames that I also don't see the necessity for. So what I did was just erase this and put one of his sketches in the background.
Totally agree. And I would go even further and removing the personal logo and adding his name. That's it. Because then by the cover, you know whose portfolio that's from.
Yeah, overall, this portfolio is also very minimal. It has a lot of white space, from his picture to this About Me section. This About Me section just gives a little bit more insight into the person, not so much the architect. But one thing I really loved about the portfolio was that each project introduction has a personal sketch of Daniel, which obviously gives, you can see the hand of the designer as we were talking about earlier, and you can see like his visual voice that he's interested in sketching. And for me, this is really cool.
But something that kind of caught me here is I just didn't know how to feel it, is that there were pages from a
inside
book,
pages,
but they weren't even in a mock-up sort of situation, which would have helped to tell us that this is actually a print that he did as part of probably a study here, an academic project. And to start with this also says a lot about his work and his process.
I really like that this investigative project was like the first part of his portfolio because it obviously talks about his interests inside of architecture.
And then we go to the second project, and here we have once again a sketch to open it up, kind of introduce us to what's to come. And then the project opening itself with the title, description, technical information, and a very interesting image on the side.
What I really like about his project introduction spreads is how he has a very set hierarchy inside of his fonts. So we can always see which is the header, which is the second header. Then we have, the description text, and finally the paragraph text. They're very distant in size and in weight, so you can't confuse one with the other. So this is like a very good example of how much difference there should be in header text versus paragraph text.
Okay, so this is the first one that I redesigned. I mean, there's nothing really wrong about this, but I felt that the hierarchy within text and image was a bit off. It didn't have enough contrast in that sense. This is the before and this is the after. And notice that I made the drawing bigger, but maintained the legend on the same size. So, and here as well, I maintained the same hierarchy because it was on point, as you said, but I felt that it could have been broken down into 2 lines. It could have been aligned with the main body text, and all of this could have been squished a little bit together as more of a bullet list of technical description. The second spread that I redesigned was this one. I went for the technical drawings. They look very interesting. They have lots of detail, but you cannot read them. You cannot see them. It's too small. I mean, you can zoom in, and see all of the details, but I think a portfolio should be read at its full screen at max. This is the before and this is the after. I just got rid of the facade because it wasn't telling anything. Literally on the next spread there was a rendering from the facade and you can see all of this pattern. Let's make the section bigger, and then I aligned everything here.
Wow, man. On how small changes can create a completely different spread without changing the actual drawing, you know? You just scaled some things up, erased some other things, but it's mostly the thought process that you had behind it, which is, you know, what is the facade saying? Is it saying something, or do I have another representation of the facade later? How legible are the floor plans? And if this section is so like interesting, why not scale it up?
I think it's easier to make certain moves when you're looking from the outside. Maybe he was too into the process, too into the InDesign file there, that some of these things that just go by unnoticed.
And for example, for this project, it has like 3 or 4 different spreads of floor plan, or just floor plans. I mean, if someone was super interested in you and in your portfolio and in this project, maybe through a second interview you could take this portfolio, like the extended version of the portfolio, but for the shorter version you could just include one floor plan and then continue with the next project, because it's just too many pages and no one's going to look through all of the images at
or
once,
even
you know?
use a QR code.
But he has some interesting projects which go very in line with his visual voice.
And this is really important. Adding all of the collaborators, everyone that was part of this, because you must include all of the names and at least mention that everything wasn't produced by you. But I think the images here were, because if they weren't, he maybe would have disclosed it. It feels consistent, right? Every project has interesting images, interesting drawings, so it must be part of his skill set.
You know what I really liked? It is that he has a variety of projects in different scales, in different maybe types. Like he has like investigative projects, he has urban projects, he has small houses, he has, you know, different typologies, which if you wanted to hire him, then you would know that he has been confronted with different types of scenarios.
Yeah, he can pick and choose the projects that will compose this new job offering process.
One of my favorite parts was that last part, which he has, you know, his drawings and his photography. I mean, to me, just like the sketches, I have like a soft spot for people who, you know, scan their sketches or, you know, upload their photography or how they see the world.
Yeah, and it shows that you're something else than just the guy or the girl that does the renderings, the drawings, the day-to-day architect stuff. You're more of a complete person.
Agree. No, but I think that this exercise with Daniel was super interesting, because in past episodes we have seen that, like, for some spreads that try to fit in like a ton of information, they have no white space. We have to do like procedures of eliminating, creating white space. But for Daniel's case, he had so much white space and everything was so small that it wasn't legible either. So you could, if you go to either extreme, then you would have to revise your portfolio again, because maybe it's not that legible. So here, just making each drawing bigger or centering the drawings, or, you know, coupling them together, could just be a better step than having drawings that are really small.
Completely agree with you, man. It was fun. I liked redesigning Daniel's pages.
I really want to thank everyone for submitting their portfolios. This is actually the second season that we have created portfolio reviews. If you want to see the past episodes, there will be a playlist down below. We have portfolio reviews on my channel and also on Oliver's channel. His channel and all his social media will be linked down below. We also want to thank Issuu for sponsoring this season of portfolio reviews. If you want to have your portfolio reviewed by Oliver and by me, there will be a link in the description for you to submit your portfolio. Comment down below which portfolio, which one you thought was the most interesting for your point of view. Remember that everyone has their own visual voice, everyone has their own visual style. So this doesn't mean that your portfolio has to be the same. Try to make your own style of portfolio, try to represent your voice, try to communicate your ideas effectively. And that's what we're trying to do here with these reviews.
And don't forget to check Upstairs YouTube channel for the next episode that's coming up in a few weeks. Thanks, Steven, for having me. It was really fun.
And if you want to check out the next episode of the portfolio review, you can click on this video right here or in the link in the description.
Cha-ching.